and a grand closing ceremony from 3 p.m. till midnight. Don't miss a moment of the culture and the community. River Sally Fiesta 2025. It's not just an event, it's a moment. Follow us online for updates and the full schedule. River Sally Fiesta 2025. Be there and be proud.
And I am a prayer for my country. Righteousness exalts the nation, but sin is a reproach to any man. Pray for my country. I want to say a prayer to the Lord for my nation. I want to say a prayer for all them politicians. I want to beg the master to brighten their vision. Give them the inspiration to look beyond the horizon.
Good morning to your wonderful listeners of Real FM 91.9, 91.5, www.therealfm Grenada. It is another conversation with the RGPF from the Eastern Division, and I am Sergeant 85 Grant, attached to the Community Relations Department within the Eastern Division of the Royal Grenada Police Force. It is a lovely Wednesday morning. Yeah. And to your wonderful listeners, we say good morning. I know this morning it's heated. I know this morning lots of persons is key on and logged into their devices because our young people, our nation's children, our future leaders are blazing the tracks this morning and even participating in field events. I want to encourage all of us. Let us allow our young people to have clean fun, good and clean, healthy competition as they show off their skills and talents. I've looked at some of the games yesterday, and what I noticed, some of we adults, our comments are not very positive. Some of the obscenes, please let us leave that part of the language out. I don't know which department head is responsible for that, but let us leave it out and let us just encourage those young people to have clean and healthy fun, because that's what we advocate throughout. Okay, and let us hope and pray that at the end of the day the best school wins, be it male or female, and that they do not have any or much injury as they continue to compete. So my guest is in studio with me. Those of you who are logged in via YouTube and Facebook, you would realize that my guest is in, but because we're not talking children or the whole aspect of children this morning, I just chose to put that in the introduction, because when we start with the conversation, we'll be going full-fledged. And on that note, I would say good morning to my guests and say welcome to Real FM on The Conversation with the RGPF. How are you this morning, sir?
Yes, good morning. And my name is Joel Brown. I am Corporal number 513, presently attached to the Eastern Division in charge of the fire station. It's nice being here to disseminate information as it relates to basic fire prevention tips for homes and also dealing with the environment, because we realize that persons are going into the planting season and a lot of applications for burning are being sent in and being brought to us. So we are taking this opportunity here to kind of like sensitize persons. Even though they get the permission and there are instruction or directives on that paper, persons don't always follow them. Mm-hmm. So we are just taking this initiative here, a proactive initiative to kind of like advise persons, guide them along so that we'll have a safe planting season, and then persons will be even safer at their homes, the environment, the society, etc. So thanks for the listening and the viewing public. And the information we disseminate here, we hope that you would actually grasp it and put it into practice.
Well, of course, Corporal, certainly we are aware based on feedback from our listeners, and even when we go through day to day, persons do acknowledge that they listen to the program and how informative it is. And I must say to you, it's not just the Tri Island State that is hearing you this morning. Even persons within the diaspora, within the United Kingdom, USA, New York, wherever they are listening, because you are also live on YouTube and Facebook. So we already have our live followers with us this morning that is locked on to Real FM one way or the other. So hence, Real FM is always that community radio station that creates the bridge or gap for us to reach the wider community. Because really and truly, we are a small society. I know you in your introduction, Corporal, you spoke in light of the farmers cleaning or clearing the lands for preparation in regards to planting.
Yes.
But before we go that route, I know there are still children at home this morning, because there are those who would not be going to intercal. Some of them, it's a bit early for them. So let us just hold a conversation that would lean in their direction to give them some reminders as to their own action and how that can contribute to safety in the whole aspect of fire and protection of property. Now, Easter, we are already feeling it, even if Easter is later down in the month. But since the close of February, March, based on the wind that is blowing and the breeze, we know that it's the time of the year when kite is in season. It is the kite season time. A lot of our youngsters, our children are at home, be it primary school or secondary school, and even some of our adults, that's the time of the year where they find that moment to socialize with their children in kite flying. The schools, while I was journeying here this morning at Plains Pasture, I realized that there is a congregation there already flying kite. In the whole aspect and the scheme of things as it regards to fire, but let us kind of stick a bit to the electrical fire. What advice do you have to all on sundry where kite flying is concerned and electrical poles and safety mechanism?
Okay, so I like to start with the parents as it relates to that.
Right.
I always think as parents, we all have to always try and encourage our youths, be it of what age, always put that information in their head of safety, because that is most important. It's not every child that might just have the ability or have the permission to probably go in an open field and fly their kite. So that child might take a little chance and want to fly the kite close to home.
Right.
And as you know, once you're home or in the community, well, electrical lines or utility lines are there. So, from my experience as a youth, sometimes we try to be so technical that we try to fly the kite through the lines and stuff like that. And that is what could lead to danger.
Right.
Because you could have your tails entangling in the power lines, your cord entangling in the power lines, and then you as a child, sometimes you really have that discretion of that safety of how dangerous it could be, you would try and probably pull your kite. Mm-hmm. And if two lines come into contact, especially the high voltage lines, what could happen? Right. You know what I mean? It will trigger off probably a whole area, a whole grid. It could also endanger your life. So I always go to the parents, especially in these times. It's not all the time parents would be home to supervise their children because they would be on vacation. So when you're leaving in the morning, just remind them, if you have to fly a kite, please try and do it in a safe area.
Right.
Don't go in the road. Don't try to fly through lines. And even in your home, because even stuff your kite could hook on your lines home and trigger off appliances in your house. Right. You could burn them. So, it's always, I say, on the parents or even the teachers in the schools, where, just speak to them. And then sometimes you have to speak to them in a language that sometimes they would understand. Yeah, you have to explain the dangers and what could come out of your actions. Because sometimes you just tell the child, don't. But you're telling the child, don't fly the kite there. But then the child might be seeing a neighbor who's an elder person flying the kite in the same area. So if they do not conceptualize that aspect of safety, they're saying, well, if they could do it, why can't I try it? And you know, a child is inquisitive and they trying stuff. So if they see the big person doing it, they say, boy, I wonder if I'm capable of doing it also.
Yes.
The big person might have years of experience and they're more skilled, so they're getting through. But they taking that chance could put their lives in risk.
Definitely.
Yeah, so we as parents, supervisors, I say, we dealing with the public as public safety officers, police officers. It's always good to have that engaging conversation and always putting safety first. Right. Even for ourselves as adults, we need to always think safety first when it comes to dealing with any fire or any electrical appliance and stuff like that. So I just say, we in the season where we know the children are going to fly kites. That cannot be stopped. It's embedded in us, you know? It becomes part of us. So all we have to do is always try to just, as I say, safety.
Right.
Just try to pong it in their head. Safety, safety. They may not always practice it, but at some point in time, it might just reflect in their memory that mommy, daddy, auntie, uncle, the teacher in school always said, do not fly the kites close to electrical lines. Always try to go in a safe area. If for some reason your kite gets entangled in the electrical lines, leave it. Let the proper authority come and deal with it. Don't try to take it out yourselves. Right. So I just want to leave that with the listening public or the viewing public for now.
So I am aware that our listeners this morning do understand the whole concept of communicating with the young ones and even with some of our elders as it regards to where they fly their kites. Yes. In light of our parents and guardians who are working and the children will be or are already at home, because we are aware not all child or children will go to intercal. Yeah. For some children, they get 3 weeks vacation, like it or not, because for this entire week have not and will not be going to school. Yeah. But instead, they will be flying their kites. Speaking directly to our parents and guardians, having educate them on the whole aspect of safety, communication with the children, what advice would you give them on a plan for the children in terms of they having to work, the children is at home? Yes, the children would fly kite. What would you say to the parents in lieu of or to deal with that whole situation?
Well, I think at any point there may or there would be some senior person or some elderly person close by. So, once you know that children would be home, it is always good to say to a neighbor or somebody close by, could you please throw an eye? Or you have a plan in place which should be done, which we all don't really do. All homes should have a safety measure plan, basically, for be it fires, any emergency situation, and how, if that child is at home by themselves, what they're supposed to do in any situation, any circumstance that arise. So it's always good to implement a safety plan with your home or your family and say, well, if there's a fire, this is what you should do. You get out of the house immediately, go to the nearest neighbor, ask them to call the fire department or call the emergency line for help or so. So you know that you are not leaving that responsibility on the child. Right. Your basic thing is safety of that child first. Let them know that their lives are more important than anything that you own personally. Right. So you home, there's a fire, let us say for some reason that child tried to cook or some electrical appliance, because once the children home, probably a fan will be running for the whole day.
You're sure right.
Yeah. And based on my experience and what I do as an investigator in fire department, I have experienced a lot of fires being caused by prolonged usage of fans or sometimes electrical appliances, stoves if you're not cleaning it properly, the grease accumulating on it. So there are things that can happen that sometimes, as I say, it's an accident. You're not really prepared for it. But you just have to say, well, to the children, your safety is paramount. Do not try to deal with situations for yourself. And they say, well, okay, if there's a fire, you get out.
Right.
First and foremost, you get out.
So listeners, we're here at Real FM with the conversation with the RGPF, and we're discussing the whole aspect of safety as regards to our children and electrical fires on a whole. What should you do? So we'll just continue with our conversation. And Corporal, it is noticeable that NAWASA there is a lot of construction or digging taking place on our roads. It is also observable that within a certain distance where the digging is taking place, that there is these holes that they're digging. Having done a little investigation myself, I was informed that it is fire hydrants that they're preparing for installation or putting down. How much benefit is that to we as Grenadians, one, and also to you and your fire colleagues in regards to the installations of those fire hydrants, because we've seen the work. And may I advance to say, as motorists, it can have you stressed and daunting. It's the end product that may have us rejoicing, but at this stage it's a bit stressful. But having that understanding that yes, NAWASA is doing some reinstallation of pipes, but more so the fire hydrants. How important is that to us as Grenadians at large and for you and your department?
Okay, so I'll start with reaching out to the motoring public. Please have a little patience with the persons who are doing these works, right? It is of valued importance to us. Basically, surveys was done.
Okay.
And based on the location of some hydrants, the distance between hydrants, it was a serious issue. So it was a collaborated effort where persons within the fire department, with NAWASA, and everybody, a survey was done, and the need for hydrants or for more hydrants was needed. So they definitely saw that need for more hydrants. So it is so, we really appreciate that, okay, so much hydrants are being placed in strategic areas, which would definitely enhance our response as firefighters. Because one of the challenges we had is like, if we respond to a fire, and then we have to go and reload, sometimes the distance we usually had to travel to just reload the truck. Yeah, so if there are more hydrants within closer proximity, that definitely will improve our response and saving properties, especially saving properties. So we are really thankful and we are appreciative of the initiative that has been taken to install these hydrants in the different locations and within closer proximity. So it is much easier for us to reload and do our firefighting in a more, in a more better way. So our response time will be cut down, definitely.
Right.
Because, as I say, when it comes to fire, seconds count. Seconds. Because, as I say, once a fire call comes in, we're supposed to be out of the station under a minute.
Right.
One of the fastest response I can say in the RGPF, within a minute we're supposed to be out of the station and on our way. But sometimes we get there, we fight in the fire, our media or the water finishes, and then sometimes the distance we have to travel to refill is our downfall.
Right.
Yeah, because sometimes we control the fire to a level, and then when the water finish, by the time we go and come back, it grows again. So that's why sometimes we end up losing. When you could save half of our house, you might end up losing the entire house because our response to refilling is kind of distant. So it's a really, really good initiative taken by all parties involved, now as the fire department and all other parties. So they definitely saw the importance for more hydrants to be placed in strategic locations or closer proximity so that our response will definitely improve.
Well, Corporal, I must say that the way in which you explained it, I hope our listeners do accede and take heed to that bit of information, because listeners, we do understand when a fire is in action, how difficult. You may have your own hose pipe, you may have a hose, and it may not even create a dent. We've heard the last fire, well, that occurred in Bolio, and the neighbor said, we've tried. And he was not the homeowner, just a neighbor. He said, I broke the pipe and I tried this, and it's still gone. So with that explanation, I want to add also to Corporal Brown, asking us, I'm not going to leave out myself, asking us, or we motorists, that when we are applying the roads or traveling on the roads, that we do have extra care and consideration for these workmen who are endeavoring to ensure that our community is safer, even as means of it wouldn't be a prevention, but in terms of being able, in the event there is a fire, that close access to water sourcing can be feasible for the fire tender, so that, as the corporate rightly say, if God forbid and your property is engulfed, instead of losing the entire thing, it may just be a part, because where they have to distance and journey for the water. So we ask that we all give them their respect. Let us support them one way or the other, so that that safety mechanism can continue. Because colleagues, fire don't say when it coming. It never says when it coming.
It doesn't.
Yeah, it's like an accident. If you really know that you're going to meet in an accident, you certainly will stay home and stay away from the wheels. So listeners, what we'll do at this time, we got 25 minutes up to the 10 o'clock hour. I know that our young people are already, in most instances, our athletes is already at the national stadium. Others are preparing themselves to journey down, but we still want to ask of you, whatever you do to be safe, safety is of paramount. To you, our parents and guardians, you're allowing your children, even the Form 1s, whether they are going with the school or not, we are asking of you to continue to speak with them as to the whole aspect of safety. Remind them that they should not accept drinks from strangers if they did not see it open or purchased, because even if they all are teenagers, that does not mean that they do not have intention of, or maybe being used as a medium to cause harm to another. We also want to remind not just the young ladies, but the boys as well, the young men, that they're not of age to say yes to sex, especially if you're under the age of 16, and that's a law, and that's what we expect. We are also asking our athletes to conduct themselves in a manner that would depict not just you and your family, but the institution that you recognize, or the institution that you are supporting. So some of the antisocial behaviors, we are asking you to erase them and leave them out. We are asking you, young people, to stay away from drugs and other substance that is going to alter your mind and your body. Remember, when intercall is over, we want to continue to speak with you and not about you. We also want to speak against loitering You know the time for your bus. You know where and how to catch your transport to go home. We ask you to do so in a business-like manner. And if you were to run into any mishap, whether it is any form of bullying or any other situation, we ask you to report it as soon as practicable. Report it. There are officers within the bleachers and within the perimeter of the stadium. There are various other officials, education officials, sports personnel. There are other senior persons there. Ensure to get their name and have a communication with them. Do not respond in a violent manner. The police has a common post or a common center, or yes, they are operating a station there for the duration of the intercall. So if there is a situation between one student and another, or school against the other, because the competition is tight, if perchance there is a situation, we ask you to deal with it professionally, but at the same time we encourage you to have clean and healthy fun. Let us just have a little interlude with our theme song, Ajamu, Pray for Our Nation, as we continue to celebrate with our children, but at the same time continue to look at our safety with Corporal Brong in studio as we talk about fire and how best. When we get back in studio, we'll look at the whole aspect of clean agricultural fire, how to protect yourselves and property, and also your neighbor's property, because you may have that fire control. That's just a teaser and a warm-up for when we resume. You may have your fire well controlled, but you can't control the breeze. Hey, farmer, you can't. So you may take all consideration and respect all the measures that they give you, but the breeze would have carried a spark over. Let us take a break with our theme song and we'll be right back with the conversation with the RGPF.
Too long we living in bitterness and hate. Now the time is right for us to renew our faith. I'm sick and tired of all the confusion. The bickering been going on much too long. So as we move to the new century, Father, hear my plea. Hey, Father, I pray for the PM to find solution for we problem. Oh, Father, oh, Father, I pray for every minister to see eye to eye with each other. Oh, Father, oh, Father, I pray for progress, I pray for stability, I pray for happiness, and a whole lot of love in my country. Father, I pray for the police, please inspire them to keep the peace. Oh, Father, oh, Father, I pray for the judge and the jury, and those who begging for them mercy. Oh, Father, oh, Father, I pray and I pray, I pray and I pray, I pray for the good and the bad man. I pray and I pray, I pray and I pray, I pray for the whole of my nation. Father, hear my prayer, a prayer for my country. Father, oh, pray for my country. Pray, oh, I say a prayer. Living conditions sometimes is so unbearable. It's very hard for the youths to stay out of trouble.
Yes, we know that our children are going to school. We know that the situation is really unbearable, and hence the reason we are asking for the adult support and supervision, not just for your child, not just for your children, but also for our community children. We do need to give them that support, because the young minds, idle minds and hands do destructive things. Let us give them our support. Let us be there for and with them. We've done it just the same. Remember that? Yeah. But we need the guidance. We need to be there. Not because we do it means that they have to do it too. We need to lead them in that path. We need to guide them. So to all our online viewers, we say good morning and thank you and welcome. Stick and stay to Real FM, whatever medium you're using. To you, Mr. Toussaint, out of Texas, that is logged on via YouTube. I say good morning. Yes, I note your request asking for the whole aspect of age consent to be discussed. Yes, that will be considered in the not too distant future when we look at sexual offenses and criminal responsibility. But just off the bat, the age of consent is 16. So any person, be it male or female, under the age of 16 cannot and should not, and that's law, give consent to sex. So the yes is a no and the no remains no, be it male or female. And if you are on that or within that age category 0 to 16 and you do participate, whether you say you give or not, it is liable that both parties can be charged if you both are under the age, or some other mitigation based on the circumstance. But the bottom line is you can't give consent. All right, so that is on the whole aspect of sex. But in terms of pretty larceny, criminal responsibility, under pretty larceny, you got age 8. That if you commit any pretty larceny offense and you have attained the age of 8, you can be arrested and charged. And for criminal responsibility for every other action, you have attained the age of 12. Any person who has reached, that's what attain means, reached the age of 12, and you partake in any criminal activity, you can be arrested and charged. So there are some age considerations that as parents and guardians and also young people that we always need to listen. I hope that, yes, I understand you want a program or a topic on that, but I just hope that as you ask the question, I pitch it in and it do help in terms of your response in one way or the other. To all our wonderful listeners to Real FM, you do contribute to the program to make it what it is. So couple, bring back to you on the whole aspect of fire and safety and prevention. Listeners, before the break, we had looked at fires via kite, electrical fires, your kite tail or even the thread or the twine or the cord being entangled with the electrical lines or pole, and how destructive that can be, how much work grain that can have as a result. Even homes and properties can also be destroyed. So we've discussed that and give some advice to our parents and guardians. We look at the aspect of fire hydrants and the road and how much consideration we should give and the importance they are to us. So now we're going to dip a little bit because, you know, at time like now you can't speak fire and don't speak to our farmers or about our farmers. So we go straight into that, and I'll just give you an open question. What advice, what would you say to someone who is interested in farming and is doing that mass clearing but intend to burn? What would you say to them? Is there anything in the law that they need to be guided by?
Well, you know, there's what they call the Agricultural Fire Act, right? Which is Cap 6, Volume 2. Once you're doing farming, it is funny, once you're doing farming, you are expected to get a permission if you have to do any burning. It is in law.
Right.
Once you intend to burn, you need to go to basically what we call the chief extension officer. You might have an extension office in your area under the Ministry of Agriculture. So you will go there and get that permission. With that permission, there are guidelines that you will have to follow as it relates to your clearing and your burning. Right? So I often would say to people, you have to be considerate. If you have to burn, you definitely have to inform your neighbors or any person you think that smoke would affect, and at least give them 3, 4, 5 days notice. So when you go to get your permission, when you get that permission, it should be, let us say it's from the 25th, let us say by the 20th of that month, the 20th, 21st. So the days leading up to you doing that burning, you should inform the persons that are close to you. And sometimes you have to take into consideration the wind direction.
Right.
Because we know that smoke travels. Right? Sometimes based on the extent of things you have to burn, there might be somebody down the road that is probably asthmatic, has respiratory issues. So you giving that person that 5-day warning, I think is sufficient time to let them know that maybe on that day, if I have something to do, I can just step away because the possibility of the smoke probably suffocating me a bit, or causing my problem to become a little more complicated. You understand?
Certainly.
So it is always good to inform your neighbors. That is just one part of it. Then, as I say, take into consideration the wind direction. Because if you clear a piece of land to burn, we do not want that the wind is blowing from, let's say, north to south. Mm-hmm. And if you have different heaps of things to burn, you start the fire in the north. I hope you've seen that picture, because if you start the fire in that direction, the likely possibility, it is highly likely that the other heaps may catch and you will have a large scale fire. Right. So what would be advised is that you would burn in small heaps in the middle of the land, or you do a clearance around and you start, let us say you start south and you're going to north. So which means that you are burning against the wind. So the fire would take a time away. It wouldn't burn as fast because wind assists fire in burning fast. The more oxygen that is available, the faster that fire would grow, develop, and burn. So let us say you start from the south, so you burn the heaps coming up. So then there's no possibility of the heaps higher up catching, or let us say a spark traveling to that direction. So then you would have that large scale which possibly could come out of control. Next thing, don't light fires and leave.
Right.
I know persons for years say, you know, I've been doing it for all the years, but you don't know that one time when it would just get out of control. Yeah. Because sometimes you set the fire, and this is the reason why when you get the permission, it specifically says there should always be person or persons there supervising that burn or looking at it. You should always have water available. Next one, burn in small heaps. The reason for that, again, you have more control.
Right.
You know, so burn in small heaps. And, you know, always have, as I say again, going back, always have an idea of the wind direction. That really helps. So if you are there and for some reason you light 2 heaps at the bottom and for some reason a third one starts, you have water available, you have persons there, they can easily get into action and control it. Then you have that fire there burning unsupervised, and it could actually do what it wants. The next thing, as I spoke earlier about persons in the neighborhood or the community, we have to take into consideration the environment. You have to be very careful what you burn. I say there's a lot of illnesses, as I say, persons with respiratory problems. So based on what you probably cut or you intend to clear, it might be big logs. Persons, you don't want to use tires and stuff like that. And we know the kind of smoke that tires produce. Yeah. You know, how thick and black and... Yes. So, you know what I mean? All these things we have to consider. If, when you clear, you don't have to burn, sometimes we'd advise person, come on, if you could put it on the edge and allow it to dry and become compost or mulch, that's one of the best way. But then sometimes based on the area you have to clear, you must burn, so you come and seek the permission, right? So we're just saying, you get your permission from the agriculture office, you come, you drop one into the nearest fire department, stating that on that date, I will be burning, and then we are expecting you to follow the guidelines on that. Inform persons.
Is there any consequences for failing to adhere to the guidelines that is scribed in the permission?
There is penalties, and if you cause serious damage to the property, you could be charged and be imprisoned also.
Right.
Yes. I'm not in a position to give you the specifics, so I'll get back on the next program and probably give you exactly what is the penalty and time.
Right.
But,
right.
You know what I mean, fire is something serious. And remember, if you set your piece of land on fire and because of you neglecting certain things and you cause someone's house to burn, you will have to be held accountable for it.
Right.
Because of your negligence. And if someone's property get destroyed, you know what I mean, as I say, that could be their life. Their life works. So we are just reaching out to persons and saying, yes, we are a agriculture community. A lot of persons survive by that. You might be doing your burning or your clearing and there might be properties nearby. Inform the persons. Take the necessary precaution that could save or preserve life and property. That is most important.
Right.
Preservation of life and property. You understand? So, not just because you get the permission to burn, you will just go and burn without no discretion.
Yeah.
Or as we just say, helter skelter. Yes.
I'm in permission and that
yes,
is
you get
it.
permission
I have
and,
that
they just burn.
Yes.
And you don't take into consideration, what if I'm in that person's position and somebody else has to burn? Would I like for them to set a fire with all these stars, my whole house smoke up? I'm sick and I was not informed. So we have to be cognizant of, we living in a closely knitted community. There are a lot of ills because of respiratory situations, asthma, etc., etc. Take into consideration that what you do not like for yourself, you wouldn't like it for others. So if you are about to do something, try to do it in the best way possible and take into consideration everyone else. So that is my advice on that when it comes to the burning. The only other situation is that within communities, you don't really need permission to. It's only for the agriculture.
Right,
you know?
yes. Right.
But you also, as I say, you need to inform persons.
Nice.
Because if you tell your neighbor, well, I clear up my yard, I have some leaves, and have enough place to store it, or I have bags to probably transport it out, I intend to burn, do it in the safe way. If you get a drum, you could gradually feed the leaves into the drum and burn it.
Yeah.
Do not just leave it in the open so that the breeze can take it. And, next thing you have to be fighting, trying to save somebody home, or their little crops they plant close to their house and stuff like that. So I say, let us think family, friends, neighbor first before we do anything. All right? Thank you.
So just in case having that permission or even informing your neighbors and it, God forbid, the fire gets out of control, what advice you have for that person?
Well, try not to be the professional. Call us immediately.
Right.
Yeah, I say that every time. Because a lot of situations that sometimes where you could have saved is because person took it on their own and tried to control the fire themselves. I ain't saying you cannot initiate that based on when you see it. But call the professionals quick, instantly. Because when we get there, based on the quantity of water we have, we might be able to, we will do a better job, definitely. I know if or but. But sometimes when you take that initiative and you're trying to fight it yourself, and then sometimes somebody will tell you, oh, we saw that fire about a whole half an hour ago. And we just get that call. We just get that call. So by the time we reach it, that fire has grown out of control. All we're going to do is basically mop up. Well, yeah, that's what we have to say. Yeah, we're not really going to initiate any serious firefighting. So we're just going to...
So listeners, we're still here tuned in to Real FM 91.9, the conversation with the RGPF. We'll just take a last minute break for our cause and we'll be right back with the conversation.
A special prayer goes out for the musicians and me Rasta brethren song here in Babylon. I pray for the poor and needy, Father have some mercy. Hey, Father I pray for the farmers who go into torment and horrors. Oh Father, I pray for every fisherman who risking their life in the ocean. Oh Father, I pray for the elders and the little babies.
Yes, we are still here, and we will certainly pray for our nation and ensure the safety of our nation. We really do trust that we have no fatalities, no damage, no casualties in regards to fire of any sort, whether it is through electrical fires, whether it is through homes, or whether it is through farming. Whatever means, as the corporal rightly said, as our guest rightly said, let us put friends, family, community, neighbors into perspective first before we think about just burning because we want to clear an area of a selfish gain. And not because my neighbor Tom do it to me, I'm going to do it back to him or her. Sometimes you got to beat them with kindness and hope that their senses come alive. Yeah, we are resilient people. We are Grenadians. We can try that approach and ensure that. But overall, from the entire program, what I love, and just before we took that last break, what I love, Corporal, is when you say, don't be the professionals. You have a fire situation. You must know when a fire is out of control.
Yep.
Call the professionals. Yeah. Who are the professionals? The Royal Grenada Police Force Fire Department. You call 911 or you call the police station in the area where the fire is being lit. So you live in Plain St. Patrick's, but your garden is in Dunfermline. You don't call Sutter's Police, you don't call Sutter's Fire Department, you call Grenville Fire Department. They do not have a personal line at the office, so you can call 911-405-3153 and you will get through. 911 is St. George's emergency line. 405-3153 is the Grenville Police Station cell number. They will communicate that information. And don't think, as he says, within a minute they're out. Mind you, is to see my colleagues out of the fire department when they get that call. Be it a bushfire, be it a domestic fire, which is a house, or be it just any situation, whether a vehicle go over, accidents and someone is trapped. As long as they get that call, you don't want to see my colleagues respond. You know, I say kudos to you, Officer Brown, and your colleagues, because many a times I myself can't do it. Listeners, this has been it with the program, The Conversation with the RGPF. Corporal Brown is pretty new to Grenville as the officer in charge, and he get it, whoop. But I must say, your department has always been there as a support to us and the program. And I suspect Sergeant Halley is listening, and he's ever so proud of you responding to that call. So to you, our listeners, thank you for sticking in to The Conversation on Real FM 91.5 www.TheRealFM Grenada via Facebook or YouTube. We'll be back next Wednesday with another conversation to ensure that you got the best of it. Stick and stay. Have clean fun at the National Stadium today with good support. Bye for now. I have been Sergeant Grant. It was a pleasure serving you. See you then.
Why do you even contemplate using substandard furniture, which is imported, when you can get the best made right here in Grenada? Our factory is located in the cultural village of Chantimel and our showroom on Ben Jones Street, St. Andrew. We are also noted for refurbishing that piece of furniture to its initial look. When looking for quality furniture, there is only one place to look, and